I've tanked every one of the 8 new dungeons in Dragonflight. Yes, it's been a busy week, including the 4 leveling ones that you start with. And today I would like to offer my casual and beginner tanks who recently joined or returning to WoW my quick review and tanking guide for the Halls of Infusion dungeon, a quick walkthrough and what to look out for as a beginner tank. If you like this content and want more of it, please give me a like and subscribe for more, as I release new videos every week, often recently more than one per week. Halls of Infusion is a Watcher facility which was clearly built by the Titans. It is massive and it's a long run if you happen to not listen to my advice and die on the last boss. So watch till the end and listen carefully. Halls of Infusion is a good dungeon in a sense of it being well balanced in my view on how much trash there is versus what the trash does and how interesting boss mechanics are. This is the first dungeon of the 4 leveling dungeons in Dragonflight that is not flat out yawn, for me at least. So, sure, I wasn't yawning full-on in Brackenhide Hollow either, but that was more of out of frustration rather than feeling engaged in mechanics and actually trying not to die and tank better. Here you kinda get that right feeling, if you know what I mean. The path to the first boss is straight and around the circular room in front of you. It's hard to get lost there, kind of. I take the left-hand side, as it seems that the right-hand side has one extra group of mobs that you don't really need to pull. This early trash is not too bad actually, and nothing to write home about. Just don't go crazy and don't pull the whole corridor worth of full of them, as they do some crowd control and are not the easiest to group up for AoE by your group, so be sensible. The first boss, Watcher Iridius, is a confused Watcher with a broken face who clearly just tries to not let you get through the facility, and I feel for him, I do. He does some electric AoE on the floor that you obviously shouldn't stand in, but most importantly, he summons these nullification device ads, and they start pulsing this kind of disruptive AoE after a short while as the Watcher casts Siphon Power spell, which presumably would do something bad if you let him finish that cast fully. We have not done that. We had good DPS, and this is normal difficulty of the dungeon, of course, so it didn't come to the full test of the power here, but the point is that you should tank and kite the ads in such a way that their pulsing AoE, when it goes off, it sort of overlaps with the Watcher and disrupts his cast, so you can get back to DPSing him sooner. It's an okay boss. It's not too boring, but it's not too amazing either. On the way to the second boss, you will start dealing with some more annoying and dangerous trash mobs that will seem at first negligible to you, but they are quite annoying and dangerous because they can't be taunted or tanked properly. I'm talking about curious swoglets, which are frogs basically, and they will follow your teammates around and do some rather heavy, actually ticking nature damage. I presume it's poison. You just need to DPS them down ASAP before your group dies. Gulping Goliath is the second boss, and it's a toad who leaps around trying to crush people if it had the DPS for it, which it doesn't of course in normal dungeon. It summons a few more of those curious swoglets and does some AoE on the ground. This guy is not dangerous and is the least interesting boss out of the 4 in this dungeon. The rough-hewn descent pathway down to the third boss has a few dragon trash packs and a couple of patrols in your way. As a tank, do not forget that the dragons, especially the glacial ones here, do a cone AoE in front of them, damaging your group if it is not turned away from them. So I would literally pull the next little group standing waiting for you, turn the dragon sideways and tank them with my back against the wall. This is probably the safest. Kajin the Unyielding is the third boss and can be dangerous and will one-shot squishes in your group if they don't do their part. You can't save them there as a tank. She has a few icy pillars on the floor, kind of around her, and everyone should hide behind one of those pillars when she starts casting Hailstorm spell. She also summons frozen circles that kind of expand around her, and you should jump over those or dodge them somehow. Otherwise, it's kind of don't stand in a fire mechanic except with ice. The path to the final boss is where things get interesting and can get really dicey if you are not paying attention, because you are on this elevated kind of platform, elevated floor, corridor, leading to the boss area, while fighting the groups of mobs and needing to dodge the water swirlies that are moving towards you, and they will push you back and away and off the elevated pathway if you are not careful. You can use central pillars, there are kind of these pillar-like things for protection and to dodge that swirly, but honestly I found that if you want to avoid it completely, you need to step further to the left or to the right in the opposite direction of the swirly, obviously, if you don't want to be hit by it at all. There's a rather annoying mini boss right before the end of that corridor and before the end boss, who does somewhat similar mechanics, I suppose, and will push you off. That is the most kind of dangerous part there. Do not get pushed off, basically, and be careful. In this footage you will see how dangerous the mechanics of the final boss can be if you ignore his shortly and rather briefly telegraphed frost AoE little spots on the ground, or the swirling electrical, presumably, orbs floating around. Basically, you're hit by one of them and you're dead. Damage is high, even on normal difficulty. Our group wiped once, and then people died even when we ran back this whole bloody way through the whole dungeon. Yeah, for the second attempt. And I think it's mainly because of how not used everyone is by this point to anything remotely threatening in a normal dungeon. So put on your dancing shoes for this one, would be my final advice here. All in all, while Halls of Infusion is not my favorite dungeon so far in Dragonflight, I really enjoyed it. Probably the most of the 4 initial leveling dungeons that we're given, as it offers some real challenge compared to the other 3. I hope that you have enjoyed this little guide and it helps you take your beginner tanking to the next level. Please like this video so that I know that I'm doing something right and more people can see it, and so that I know that you enjoyed it, and subscribe for more. I will talk to you next time.